it's a change. We have to change how we think about change management, and change takes time, and change is hard. You need to take time to absorb it. Having a discussion is even more important than reaching the consensus. You made me a better parent there, Bikram. So my name is Nimi. I work for a company called Intap in based out of Silicon Valley, California, in the United States. I work as a program manager in our PMO team, in part of the Center of Excellence. My background is client-facing, project manager, engagement manager, working with clients to deploy our product or configure the training, whatever is needed to really train them. And now in the Center of Excellence in the PMO team, we are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to get all the processes and the collateral and the templates ready so that the client-facing teams can get their job done faster. We always try to think about it, if our job is a movie set, something that, again, that resonated from the class that we haven't thought about it, even though it was right in front of us, we just haven't really verbalized it, is acknowledging the sense of loss, especially when we change systems and the person who created that system built it from the scratch for years and years. It was sort of a one-person show there. We're now taking that system away from them. And even though it's the right thing to do, there's a real sense of loss, and we need to acknowledge this, and we need to address it accordingly in change management. These are a lot of things we haven't thought about. They're logical, they make sense. Honestly, Bikram, there's very little that you covered during the course that made me go, wow, I never thought about that. It's just that we never verbalized it that way. And so it all made sense. Nothing there was earth-shattering, but verbalizing that way made us put it at the front of our minds, and made us think that way and prioritize those items. So it wasn't an earth-shattering class, but it really was an earth-shattering impact in that sense. Do things most notably with stakeholder management. We found that this was a place that we were lacking for various reasons, and I'm actually happy to elaborate on. But it definitely changed our approach and how we do things, and we feel that we do things. What is the right way to say it? We're a lot more. We take care of things up front a lot more, and are better set up for success with regards to managing change and introducing change, most notably the adoption part towards the end. And yeah, we feel wiser in that sense. It sounds a little pretentious, but I guess it is true. Modify the processes, modify the collateral, at times introduce new processes, change systems. There's some amount of change in there, and there's definitely a lot to take a lot to take into account with regards to stakeholder management.
I can see to verbalize and to call it out in true sense. This is what the loss is all about. This will be a journey. Many times when we talk about the change, people talk about the journey, but the starting point and the end goal that misses. I like that personification, movie theater.
Yeah.
They've acted, and that's a very good way. So probably something I'll take it forward down the line. In terms of the tools and techniques, is there anything that you have implemented from this course, or you are planning to?
Yeah, in fact, there are two things. The first thing is, as I mentioned earlier, stakeholder analysis is something we realized very quickly we were not doing very well. The interesting thing about our team is that all of us on the team are fairly tenured within the company and have all came from other roles into the PMO team. So we all have people that we know, friends we've worked with over the years. So when it's time to talk to a certain stakeholder about, or sorry, a certain group of stakeholders about an initiative that we're doing, we instinctively say, oh yeah, I know a couple of people over there, I'll go talk to them, which is great, but those people may not necessarily be the right people. And we have this unconscious bias of, oh, I'm going to go talk to those people because they're my friends, because we get along, because I know how they think, because I know how to work with them, which is great, but also means you're missing some other things. You're missing some, dare I say, potential conflict. At times, having a discussion is even more important than reaching the consensus. And as I wrote the project charter, one of the first things I did is also do that stakeholder analysis with the target and with the matrix. That's one thing that we're definitely implementing right away. But we're also we've identified that there's a lot in that course that the team could find more beneficial, the larger services team. And so we're looking now to see what can we do? Can we have like a little half-hour session where we just talk about some of the high-level things that will be most impactful? Can we tailor it to some of the teams, especially stakeholder management or acknowledging loss or reasons for resistance? Some of those sort of key elements in there to just do not like a training program, but just do like a half-hour lunch and learn discussion or something like that to bring a lot of that information to people's attention, ideally from within our company. So an example that would talk to people, or as we did in our class a lot, COVID came up often as an example of change. It's great because everybody can relate to that everywhere.
And I remember, I think Kripa was mentioning, it's like from the college pass outs or the uni pass out, they started the organization, and that's how it has grown. People connecting. But to call it out and to say them that, hey, this is something we need to discuss, and we need to find a way out in terms of the stakeholder engagement. You are doing
Exactly.
excellent. What's the way forward? How are you taking it forward?
As I approach a lot of those problems, a lot of those changes, a lot of those, we need to a different process or something like that. Anytime we propose a change, no matter how large or how small, really, I'm changing the way I'm thinking. I'm trying to do a lot of the stakeholder analysis, especially because again, that's something when we notice that we're lacking. But also when we talk to people, look at things like, is there resistance here? And if so, why? Because that's how we need to address it. Even the communication plan, again, because we keep falling into our own trap, how to update our stakeholders differently. And even now, one thing that I'm working on, we're looking into a situation where we have a deployment of multiple products at the same time. So it's as opposed to a small little project of let me just deploy product A, we're now looking at a much larger multi-year project of let me deploy product A, then product B, then product C, then product D. And we're trying to think of that. Okay, so now we need to look at that as a program really rather than as a project. Different information or the same information to different groups of stakeholders at different cadences. And what happens when you have stakeholders who are really in the, if there's a Venn diagram, they're on the overlap. And it's really just a shift in how I think and then how I approach and implement all of my other work in there. And that is, in a sense, again, it's going to sound a little pretentious maybe, but it's a life lesson. It really is. And there's a lot in there. In fact, as soon as I said life lesson, it hit me. I have two kids. I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I need to think about it, but I'm pretty sure that I have done a little bit of that sort of identifying resistance in parenting as well. You made me a better parent there, Bikram. Thank you.
Wish I will be the same. And probably I was keeping it towards the end offline. I wanted to ask about your kids, how they are doing. Post the change, everything is fine, right? So, okay, probably my last question, Nimi. In terms of cohorts, Luins, is there
Mhm.
anything did you see being implemented within your change activities?
Um, this is actually something we're working on.
Mhm.
Cotter's 8 steps, eight, right?
Absolutely.
That as Kripa and Mark and I sat down to do a bit of a post course analysis and
Mhm.
see how, great, what have we learned and how can we implement this in our job? Cotter's eight steps jumped right at the top. It really resonated with all of us as a great guideline, so the North Star to follow and
Absolutely.
absorb these and follow these and you should be good. It's not a silver bullet that would fix everything, but it's definitely the lion's share of change management right there. And this is something that we're still looking at, especially in the context of that sort of lunch and learn we're thinking about. Nothing went popped and said, wow, this is amazing. It all made perfect sense. It was all logical. But now in hindsight, it really was just the concept of thinking about things in that way and verbalizing that way is earth shattering, even if nothing there is new, if it's all logical. If it's one of those, it's like being a parent, right? It's one of those things you logically understand what it is to be a parent, but you don't really understand it until you become a parent
Absolutely.
yourself. It's the same kind of thing. I logically understood all these things, but it wasn't until you verbalized them the way you did in the slides and the book and everything, and I started actually looking at how we have been doing things so far and how could we have done them better in hindsight, and then implement that moving forward, that it became that's when it really became earth shattering. That's when the sort of light bulb went on. And so it was interesting because during the course itself I was thinking, okay, yeah, this is good stuff. And now afterwards, it really is fantastic stuff. So, it's sort of a delayed reaction there in a sense,
Delayed
which is
reaction.
not a bad thing. This is good because, yeah,
That's
good.
why typically I look for 3 to 4 months post the certification. Probably you'll get to know the after effects, how it happens.
Yeah.
Good.
And you know what? It just dawned on me because it's a change. We have to change how we think about change management, and change takes time, and change is hard.
Definitely.
Need to take time to absorb it.
Absolutely. All right.
Wonderful.
So it was great talking to you today, Nime.